Hopefully, hopefully there's sound now. Yeah, there we go. Okay, hopefully there's sound now. I hit thumbs down for all of this. So every time it seems like I set up a live stream, I set it up where it's through software and I don't have software. So then I realize it way too late and I'm panicking to try to sign up for free software. And then I still can't do it. So I tried to, that's what happened this time. I signed up and when I hooked up the live stream and tried to set it up early, I didn't realize I was doing it through this software situation, and YouTube doesn't allow you to edit it. So I went to StreamYard. I've never heard of it, but Google helped me out find them. They didn't help though. They were a dumpster fire. I couldn't put in the stream key. Disaster. You don't care about any of this. But I had to delete the old live stream. Luckily, you found this one, so hopefully, more people will stop on by. But I apologize. Eventually, I'll figure this YouTube thing out with the live stream and whatnot. But whatever. We are here discussing the top 5 movies in 2021 that I saw. So I put the list of movies that I saw in 2021 in the chat, or not in the chat, in the description, and I'll put it in the chat now. Let's see. So I saw 95 movies this year, which actually is a down year for me. And that is a lot. That's not gonna just go to. I tried to paste it and copy and paste, and it didn't really work. Yeah, hit all thumbs down for this. We're off to a roaring start. 95 movies. If you're wondering the order, it literally 1 through 95. That's not the ranking. That's literally the order I watched them in. The asterisk is if I saw it in theaters. The asterisk plus is if I saw it in theaters and I didn't pay to see it. So that's just for my personal viewing of it. Normally, I like to see over 100. And unfortunately, because of look, there weren't a ton of good movies early on in the year. So I just skipped it and I dove into television shows. As I'm trying to, there we go. So I only saw 95. Apologies. But here's the thing with my list that is different from possibly anybody else's. Normally with these end of the movie year lists, they only stick to the movies that came out in that year. I don't do that. I started doing this in 2015 where I get so mad at the academies when the Oscar comes out and movies win Oscars that I go, that movie was horrible. It was boring. It sucked. But the Academy, it's an Academy darling and it wins. So I started thinking, well, all right, well, what's the best movie I saw this year? And I had no idea because I didn't write down the movie. So I think starting in 2015, I actually started charting down if I had watched it for the first time in 2015, no matter what year it actually came out, I wrote it down on my list. And the thing with this list is, some of these movies actually came out in 2020, but they came out on the festival circuit. So that's the thing with these lists. You'll see movies on people's best of the year lists that actually came out the previous year. So it's a complicated process. I said, screw it. I'm going to do things a little bit differently. If I'm watching it for the first time, I am going to write it down. I compile it at the end of the year. I look through the list and I go, all right, which ones are the good ones? Which are the bad ones? Today, we are discussing the top 5 best. And then next week, I will do a live stream where we discuss the top 5 worst. Hopefully at that point, I can figure out how to live stream and it's not a disaster and people aren't telling me that there's no sound. And then Maddie's popping on and saying, yay, there's sound. So hopefully by next week, I have this figured out. Thought is I probably won't, though. Just hypothetical. All right, so let's start out with some honorable mentions. And just because I don't mention a movie that is on the list, and once again, I'll repeat this a few times, you can see the list of movies that I'm talking about in the description. I have all of them listed there. Those are all the movies I saw. So if you don't hear a movie, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad movie, but it also doesn't guarantee that it won't make my top 5 worst of the year. So a couple of honorable mentions that I want to talk about. If I was doing the top 7, One Night in Soho would have absolutely made it. It barely missed the top 5. One Night in Soho just left theaters, I believe. It's an Edgar Wright movie, and I'm not an Edgar Wright fan, but he did Baby Driver. He did what's that movie? The Worlds, where the alien movies. Look, I'm not a huge fan of them for whatever reason. Thank you, Vincent. I really appreciate that. Thank you for supporting the chat. I'm not a big fan of his movies, but I love this movie. And it was a departure for him because he went horror and he didn't really go with the normal British humor. I mean, Baby Driver was a departure in the sense it was an action movie, but I was kind of bored out of my mind with that movie. which is a scorching hot take. Hit thumbs down if you like that movie, and you just heard that comment by me. But One Night in Soho is very, very interesting. Basically, the premise is this girl who wants to be a fashion designer who's living out in the country. She moves to London, and she realizes pretty quickly that she really doesn't fit in her design school class. So she starts renting a room, and all of a sudden, she starts getting transformed back into 1960s London. But the dream ends up becoming a nightmare. And it kind of reminded me of One Night in Paris, which I really liked that movie. But it's darker than that. And it's really interesting. It's got uh, Thomasina McKenzie, and it's got Anya Taylor-Joy, and they're both really, really, really good in it. It barely missed my top 5. So if you get a chance to see that movie, if it's still in a theater near you, it should be in a streaming service coming up shortly, and I'm sure you can rent it. But that was definitely one that I left the theater pleasantly surprised with because, as I said, not an Edgar Wright fan. The other one that I liked is Judas and the Black Messiah. This is a story that I knew nothing about, and I am a big Lakeith Stanfield fan. I think he's really, really good in everything that I've ever seen him in, whether it be a small part like in the movie Dope, or yeah, Maddie agrees. Okay, so I got one for Maddie. He got a small part in one of my favorite movies, Dope, or if it's a big part like in this one, Judas and the Black Messiah. But you have him, you have Daniel Kaluuya, and it's a fascinating true story about Fred Hampton, who was a leader of the Black Panthers, and how he was basically murdered by the government, and how they ended up switching a guy to snitch on him. And it's a gritty, fascinating story that really pulled no punches, and I like that about it. It was violent when it needs to be. Hit thumbs down for the water break. But it wasn't so anti-government, but it wasn't making the character of Fred Hampton out to be this martyr. I felt like you definitely saw the cracks in him as a person, but you also were like, whoa, what exactly is the government doing here? He can't be that big of a threat. Hello, Ethan. Thank you for coming. I really liked it, but it's not a movie that I go back and I went, wow, I really can't wait to watch it again. It's not a fun movie, but it's very, very, very good. And that movie you can find on HBO. Vincent just asked that I mentioned what services on. I'm going to try to do that off of just memory. As I said, when I started this live chat, I came on. I was actually early for like the first time ever. I'm like, all right, yeah. I'm doing pretty good with this. It's like 8:50. I'm already here, and then I realized that I was having streaming issues, and I had to panic and delete and restart. So I will do my best to tell you what streaming service they are, and keep it so you're not bored out of your mind as I sit here looking on my phone. So the other one, those are the two that I went like, all right, those are really tough to keep out of my top 5. I'm talking about One Night in Soho and Judas and the Black Messiah. As I said, One Night in Soho might be still being theaters right now, and Judas and the Black Messiah is on HBO Max. Those are the two that I went, it's going to be tough. These other ones I just thought were really, really good movies that I really enjoyed seeing. And I always write down the list of that I have, and then I start whittling it down. And these were the ones that I went, okay, we can discuss it, but probably not going to make the top 5. The Courier, which is a movie that actually came out in 2020. Here's a prime example of, it's not a 2021 movie, but I saw it for the first time in 2021. The Courier is a Benedict Cumberbatch movie, and it's another true story. I'm a big, big fan of true stories. So this movie you can find on Amazon Prime. And it's funny you mentioned, Ethan, Snowpiercer. Snowpiercer, I just released the recap for season 1 and 2, and I love Snowpiercer. But back to the Courier. So the Courier is a true story about a guy in the Cold War who was literally a courier between England and the Soviets. They've just literally found this normal guy. He just sold. I don't remember exactly what he sold, but it was like he was in logistics. He was just a normal guy, but he was able to get into the Soviet Union, and the government targeted him as a guy that could be the go-between of getting information out of the Soviet Union into their hands to, win the Cold War, if you will. But it was interesting of the pressure that was put on this regular citizen in Benedict Cumberbatch. And look, Benedict Cumberbatch is great in everything he does. This is absolutely no different. I love this movie. It was really, really good. Interesting true story that I had never heard before. So I definitely suggest that. And The Courier you can find on Amazon Prime. And once again, can't suggest that enough. The other one is Profile. So the movie Profile is another true story that I can't seem to find on my phone. I want to say Profile you can find on HBO, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So Profile was interesting in the sense of it is a true story about a journalist who looked at the tactics that ISIS uses to recruit young females from England to go to Syria and basically join the war for ISIS. And this is a big problem in England where a lot of these females and young girls and women are getting lured in on the internet to go fight a battle. And when they get to Syria and the government finds out about it, the government doesn't let them back because they look at them like they're terrorists. And then they quickly get to Syria and realize this is an issue. Well, this one journalist over there decided to look into it. So she literally created a Facebook profile, reached out to a guy, and slowly but surely she ends up getting lured in. And I'm talking about the movie, The Profile. She starts getting lured into possibly joining ISIS, and it's really interesting. But the interesting part about this movie is if you've ever seen the movie Searching, um, this movie's a lot similar to in the sense of everything is on screens. Everything in this movie, whether it be a tablet, whether it be a phone, whether it be a laptop computer, everything in this movie is done on a screen. And it's very, very interesting the way that this movie was made. It was made by Timur Burtonkov. I'm butchering that name. But he's an interesting director. He did what was that movie? Abe Lincoln in the vampire movie. He also did Wanted with James McAvoy. I like him as a director. I think some people crap on him. I like him, but this movie was very, very interesting. And it's a good look into the recruitment tactics that ISIS uses, but also it was also very interesting in the way this movie was shot. And then once again, true story. So Profile, I believe you can find on HBO Max. The next one is Army of the Dead, and you can find this on Netflix. Army of the Dead was basically zombie apocalypse meets Ocean's 11. And I was hook, line, and sinker. I was in. This was really the year of redemption for Zack Snyder. It started with Justice League, and then it piggybacked into Army of the Dead, which a lot of people seem to like. So I was no different. And I thought that this movie just visually looked really cool. I'm a sucker for the Ocean's movies and heist movies. So I really like this movie. I wasn't a huge fan of Army of Thieves, which is the follow up that Netflix released in October. But Army of the Dead, I think, is really, really good. And I really want there to be a sequel for that one. I think Zack Snyder did a really good job for this one. The next movie that made my honorable mention list is The Suicide Squad, which you can find on HBO Max. This righted the wrong of the original Suicide Squad. First of all, no Cara Delevingne. Thank God. Anything with Cara Delevingne immediately in my book goes a little bit down. But this perfectly got it, and the reason why I think I didn't put this movie on maybe a top 5 list is just because James Gunn was able to watch what happened previously to the Suicide Squad and revert that. And also James Gunn is fun, and the Suicide Squad is supposed to be fun. DC, the first time they tried to make it way too serious. But not only that, this was a fun movie. It was good. It wasn't boring at any time. The characters were great. John Cena was a pleasant surprise, and he's obviously getting a spinoff with the Peacemaker show that's coming to HBO. I really, really enjoyed this movie right from the get-go, right from the jump. Big fan of the Suicide Squad. If you haven't seen it, you're a superhero fan, please change that. I am not a DC guy, and I like the Suicide Squad, so what does that tell you? The next movie on the honorable mention list is Free Guy. Free Guy isn't available on any streaming services right now, but I'm sure you can find it on a Redbox, or you probably could rent it on just your cable provider. But Free Guy, I went in looking to dislike. Full transparency. I went in going, that movie looks horrible. And I think your preconceived notion about a movie does affect maybe your list that you do if you do one out there. Because when I go in thinking that this movie's going to suck and it actually ends up being really good, it bumps it up a little bit for me. And this movie was fun. I thought it was going to be, for whatever reason, and I think it was the video game angle, but I thought it was going to be that really crappy movie with Matthew McConaughey a couple years ago. Name's escaping me. I'll look it up. But Wasn't at all. It's Ryan Reynolds in basically a GTA simulation who realizes that he is in a simulation and he wants to fix that. And it's really well done. The cameos are great. The nods to pop culture are great because I'm a pop culture fiend. So I loved this movie and I love what they did with it. I thought it was fun. I thought it was interesting. Ryan Reynolds is a blast. I think he's a really good comedic actor, and this is a prime example of that. There were a couple of video game movies like this, and Boss Level came out this year, which is on Hulu. It's not bad, but it didn't make my honorable mention list. But Free Guy, when this hits a streaming service, if you're looking for just a chill, fun, kick your feet back, popcorn movie, this is a really, really good one for that. And yeah, Ethan, my wife actually watched it recently on a plane, and she also liked it. So the next one, City of Lies, which is you can find on Stars. The City of Lies was actually on the blacklist for years. And the blacklist, if you're unaware, is the list. Every year, there's a list that comes out, and I never really searched for it, but it's like the top unmade scripts of the year. And sometimes these really good movies, they'll pop up and you'll go, why did that take so long to get made? And I think House of Gucci was actually one of them. And then you'll see this was on the blacklist for years, and finally it got the funding, it got made, someone saw something in it, whatever. City of Lies was one of these movies, and this is the true story of the Notorious B.I.G. and his murder. And thank you so much, Walden. I really, really appreciate that. I will talk more about Free Guy if you want me to. I had no idea you were that much of a Free Guy enthusiast. I am so relieved that I put Free Guy on my. If you want any more movies, just let me know. I'll add them to the list after that donation. But no, City of Lies is a true story of Notorious B.I.G.'s murder, but more importantly, it's the true story of the cop who looked into the murder and really how it consumed his life. And it's a true story, and at the end of it, you're pretty sure you know who killed the Notorious B.I.G. And they go into why it was put under wraps. And I'm not trying to get my tinfoil hat out. I left my tinfoil hat at home. But they make a really compelling case for who did it, why they did it, the reasons why it's been kept under wraps, and why it's still an open investigation. And it's really interesting. This movie was supposed to come out in theaters. I think because of the situation with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, it got kind of pushed to the back burner and it got put on Stars. But it's really, really an interesting look into one of the most famous murders of the 90s in the Notorious B.I.G. and what happened between Death Row and Bad Boy and the cop that looked into it, who's played by Johnny Depp. So if you have Stars, check that out. Next one, No Time to Die. No Time to Die. I used to be an anti-James Bond fan for whatever reason. And I think it was just like, all right, this dude has everything. He gets ridiculously hot women. Just goes through them. And he's extremely talented. No online strips without clothes. We're not doing that, love face. Not on my chat. We're removing you. Get out of here with that. Piss off. Online strips. Hit me up later, though. I might hit the site up. No, like the guy had everything, and he's talented, and he's got the cool stuff, but ever since Daniel Craig took over, I've come around to him. I really have. I've come around, and I've realized that it is a really good franchise. Now, maybe I need to go back and I need to look at the older ones, but the Daniel Craig James Bond, I'm a sucker for. And he kind of reminds me of a more actioned up version of Pete Davidson, only because Pete Davidson gets ridiculously hot women. But that's neither here nor there. No Time to Die, perfect ending for this franchise, I thought. It was long, and a lot of times, if any of you have ever seen any of my 60-second reviews, I really appreciate that. But if you've ever seen any of them, a lot of times I'll bring up how long the movie is, because I think in this day and age of having a cell phone, it's human nature to sit there and go, all right, I'm going to look at my phone and how long is this? How much more time I have? So I think it is important at times to say how long a movie is and if it feels like it's that long. And while No Time to Die was 2 hours and 45 minutes, it really didn't feel like that. It was that long. Wasn't a huge fan of Remy Malek as the villain. I'm not a big Remy Malek fan. I think he's kind of an overrated actor, to be honest with you. He had a weird thing with his mouth in this movie. But I thought it was a really, really good ending to this franchise and to say goodbye to Daniel Craig. So kudos to him. And someone brought up Justice League. The only reason Kung Fu Scuba Bape, what a name. The only reason why I didn't put Justice League on there was it was almost 4 hours, and to me it felt like it was almost 4 hours. And I thought it was good, but I thought it was a little bit overrated because of the fact of how bad the first one was. Also, I get annoyed when Zack Snyder whined his ass off for 3 years or 4 years, whatever it was, about releasing the Snyder cut. And then they finally gets the go ahead to release it. And he goes, well, I got to do reshoots. Like, that annoyed me because I want, like, if you're going to whine about the Snyder cut, release it. You clearly have it done, right? Well, no, to me, it was like you whine because you wanted a redo and you got your redo. And your redo was much, much better. Like, amazingly better, but it was also extremely long. I thought it would be to rank it to a Marvel movie. I mean, I thought it'd be like a mid-level Marvel movie, but because it was a DC movie and because how bad the first one was, I thought it was kind of overrated. I understand what happened with his daughter. That is tragic, but I thought that he whined a lot, got to do a redo, and because of that, I left it off my top honorable mention. It won't be on there, but I understand why people really like it. I'm not gonna crap on your opinion for that one. I watched it and I went in looking to hate it, and I didn't. So, because I'm kind of a DC hater. The next movie on my honorable mention list is King Richard on HBO. This movie got a really bad rap from the people that didn't see it because people saw the trailer and thought, "Oh, great, another movie about an overbearing parent." Not at all. In fact, if you see this movie, which is once again is on HBO Max, true story about Serena and Venus Williams' father and how he got them into tennis. It's a really good look at the balance between being an overbearing parent and pushing your kid to do something that you think that they could be really successful in. This is a guy who, and I was unaware of this, he actually kept his kids off of the tour and from going pro at an early age because he didn't want to burn them out, because he didn't want them to end up being 20 years old and sick of tennis and doing drugs and having all this money but having no oomph to go out there and be great. So it's an interesting look at that. And as a parent, I think as a sports fan especially, no, love face, get out of here. No, we're talking movies, man. I don't know how to remove him. Remove. And then let me see if I can hide user on. How is he still here? I did hide him. Put in timeout. I'm just gonna put him in timeout. I apologize. Love face. Look, and I appreciate the perseverance. I really do. There are sites for that. This ain't one of them. King Richard was really good. I think Will Smith might be nominated because I think what was impressive is when you're playing a character like Richard Williams and you are as famous as Will Smith, I think at times it's easy to step back and go, oh, that's just Will Smith playing a guy. And then with this movie, at least for me, watching it in theaters, I went, a lot of the times I just forgot that it was Will Smith because he was playing it so well. But if you think this movie is about an overbearing parent, you could not be more wrong. And it's an interesting story about just two greats, two all-time greats, and how they got their start. So definitely check out King Richard, especially if you're a sports fan. I'm a big sports fan, and I'm a parent. I got a 3-year-old. He's cool sometimes, but I want to get into sports. And we were actually having a conversation at work today about this, about pushing your kids and how hard do you push them. I know people on my, slap dick men's hockey league team who were great, and they got burnt out. They got burnt out because they had the overbearing parent. And I guarantee, all you guys that are watching, if you played sports, you always remember that parent who was in the stands screaming and yelling, going nuts at a 10-year-old's baseball game. You always remember that guy. And that 10-year-old didn't go pro. Richard Williams was a really good look into how to balance that act. King Richard's a really good one. The next one, and I think this is on Hulu, and I'm going to look it up right now if I can do it while talking. But the next one is The Novice. I saw The Novice at the Philly Film Festival, and I didn't know much about it, but I was lucky enough to interview the guys who do it. You can rent it right now for $6.99. I thought it was on Hulu or Amazon, but let me see when it comes out. So the perfect example of The Novice is if you like the movie Whiplash, imagine Whiplash. Imagine the kid in Whiplash had never played drums before. That's The Novice, but with rowing. So it basically follows, you can rent it for $6.99. It follows a girl who's a freshman in college who joins her college rowing team in like basically the JV. and her quest to be the best on the team after 1 year, and how it's a horse with blinders mentality, how she doesn't care about any of her teammates, and her drive to be great. And this movie was such a great, low-key, pleasant surprise that I don't think a lot of people have heard about, and it's absolutely worth watching. If you were a fan of Whiplash, that was my number one movie the year that I saw, that I started charting, I think it was 2015. If you're a fan of Whiplash, you're going to love The Novice. And Isabella Furman plays the main character. And I think she's probably most famous from the Orphan movies. And man, she's so good in this movie. But it's just a great indie flick that just shows somebody that is just so razor focused on doing this one thing, and a lot like Whiplash. So when that movie comes out, definitely check it out. Ethan, I have seen The Eternals. That's all I'll say. I have seen it. Tick, Tick, Boom on Netflix. Woo! Okay. Full transparency on Tick, Tick, Boom. I had no idea it was a true story. And I'm watching it going, man, they kind of stole some things from the movie Rent. And then, I later find out like 3/4 of the movie in that it's based on the guy who wrote Rent. So I'm an idiot. Hit thumbs down for that. But loved it. Loved Tick, Tick, Boom. It was so good. This has been a redemption year also for Andrew Garfield. And I love that because Andrew Garfield is rarely in a bad movie. And I tweeted this out probably 2 weeks ago on the Twitter account for the channel, which you can find at _recaps. I know, really creative name. But every movie that I've seen Andrew Garfield in, except for maybe one, I've loved. And I'm trying to find the list that I wrote down. Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus was the first time I ever saw him. That's actually Heath Ledger's last movie. He died while making it. They had to have some fill-ins, but that was the first time I saw him. That's a really interesting movie. The Social Network, The Amazing Spider-Man, 99 Homes is a low-key good movie. He's great in Hacksaw Ridge, Tick, Tick, Boom, No Way Home. The only movie I've ever seen him in that I didn't like was Silence. But this year, he gets, obviously, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Spider-Man, he's in it. And then Tick, Tick, Boom. And Tick, Tick, Boom, he was really good in. I was unaware, but this is Lin-Manuel Miranda. He kind of annoys me, but he had no idea that Andrew Garfield, whether he could sing or not. And Andrew Garfield didn't really know if he could sing or not either, but he did a great job. The movie's great. Thank you so much, Vincent. I appreciate that. And Vincent, if you want to tell me any more movies that you like too, I'll gladly put them on the list. Donations, I'll throw any movie on the list if you're going to donate to the cause. Any movie that you like. Doesn't matter how. If it was on my worst movies of the year, I'll switch it over. But it was fun, and it's a movie too that I came out of, and I'm still weeks later singing, "This is the life." Ba-bum, ba-bum, bum. I wanted to be cast because I don't have a good voice, but I was a sucker for the movie The Greatest Showman the year that came out. I saw that 7 times in the theater. Tick, Tick, Boom has really, really good music in it. It's fun, and it's an interesting look in a sad story. It's a real true story, but I also could relate to the character. He's hitting the age of 30 thinking that his life's over. He's a failure because he's comparing himself to others. And I think that that's a really good message in this movie is don't compare yourself to others, even in your industry. Don't look at that guy and go, well, I'm not doing this because that guy over here, he's doing great. And just look at yourself and look and realize that you're only 30 years old and you have so much more time to be great. And that's what this character in this movie was struggling with. It's a really, really good movie. It's fun, and it's on Netflix. It's called Tick, Tick, Boom. And then let's move into the last one, which is actually one of the most recent movies I saw in the theater. I think it was the last movie I saw in the theater. The Tender Bar. I don't think The Tender Bar is out yet. It's going to hit Amazon Prime. Let me see when it comes out. But The Tender Bar is based on a book, and the only negative that I can say about The Tender Bar is it has Ty Sheridan in it, and I think Ty Sheridan sucks. But The Tender Bar actually comes out this Friday, and it's based on a memoir, true story of a guy. He starts off when he's a kid, and his mom moves back into her father's house. His dad is a radio DJ. He's a deadbeat dad. That kind of annoyed me because I work in radio, and not all radio people are deadbeat dads. But in this case, there was one. And it's just all about his life. All about his life trying to get into the college his mom wants him to and struggling with finding his own identity. It's one of those where I sat back and it wasn't, it was just a normal human interest story. And for whatever reason, I always like those. If you're somebody that doesn't really like movies based on memoirs, based on just a normal human being's life and the interesting characters that they encounter, you're not going to like The Tender Bar. But Ben Affleck is really, really good in it as, the cool uncle that hopefully a lot of us all have, remember, whatever. But The Tender Bars, I really, really enjoyed it. And that was despite Ty Sheridan, who I think sucks. Hit thumbs down for the water. Okay. Top 5 time. Starting off with number 5, we will get into the movie Nobody. Nobody I thought was going to end up being John Wick, like a John Wick ripoff. And honestly, I was perfectly okay with that. Had no problems with a John Wick ripoff. And it's not at all. It's not. It's a guy who's working a normal life, and then something happens, and he kind of goes on a rampage, but you find out he's like a insanely well-trained kind of assassin-like. But this movie with Bob Odenkirk was awesome. And it actually reminded me of the first time I did see John Wick. Now, look, I do think that maybe the writers watched John Wick and made some tweaks. Once again, I'm cool with that. But in terms of just going to the theater and just checking out on a fun story, like I was into this. And this is the difference between my top 5 and a lot of other, like the quote critics' top 5s. There's no critic who's going to put Nobody in their top 5. But for me, my movie-going experience, I absolutely loved from start to finish of this movie. Loved it. I hope they make more. I thought Bob Odenkirk was awesome in his role of just a guy in suburbia who's going to a dead-end job, and then all of a sudden something happens and he snaps into something. But man, I absolutely loved Nobody. Unfortunately, I couldn't find it on any streaming services. But if you are a fan of the John Wick franchise, it's not so much that. Like, imagine if John Wick, as ridiculous as it says, if John Wick was a little more realistic, that is probably Nobody. But it's awesome. And in terms of like really unique action movies that aren't just Michael Bay explosions and whatnot, this is it. But Bob Odenkirk was really, really good in this. I didn't expect it to be incredible. I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. Nobody, definitely, I thought like I had to put it in my top 5 because of my movie-going experience. It was a lot of fun, and that makes number 5. The number 4 movie was House of Gucci. It's another, and hit thumbs down for this because it's another time I'll say it's based on a true story. As I said earlier, I'm a sucker for true stories. And I haven't said in a while, but if you're wondering, if you just joined in and you're wondering what movies I'm going on, go to the description of this chat, and I wrote down all of the movies that I saw in 2021. That is the list that we're going off of for my top 5. We've hit Nobody at number 5. The number 4 movie, House of Gucci, which you can still find in theaters. I think Adam Driver is going to be nominated. I think Lady Gaga is a lock to be nominated. But this is a story that I wasn't familiar with at all. I mean, other than yelling out Gucci Gang, and knowing it's a fashion line, I don't know much about Gucci. I was, 5, 6 when I think he was probably murdered. But this movie was long, but it moved at such a good pace. And it was a really good look into, there's no easy way to say this, like money grubbing, like a woman who saw her opportunity, saw her easy path at life and took it. And Lady Gaga is so damn good in this movie. I thought she probably should have won for her role in A Star Is Born. I don't think she did because of the fact that it was basically like, she's a musician, she's playing a musician, how difficult is it? And the Academy said, okay, well, we'll give her best song, but we're not going to give her best actress. I thought she should have won that year. I think that she has a really, really good chance to win this year. And Adam Driver was great in the role as well. House of Gucci is really, really, really good. And it's just an interesting look into not only the business of Gucci, the business of building up this company that's now a juggernaut, but the relationships and all that. It's definitely, check it out. It's in theaters now. A lot of good acting in it. Really no negatives that I can say. Number 4, House of Gucci. Number 3 is a movie that is hard to watch, but is really, really good at the same time. And it is Cherry. Cherry you can find on Apple TV, which if you're not subscribed to Apple TV, I'll tell you right now, if you bought an Apple product in the last year, use your Apple login. You have it for a year for free. It's honestly worth subscribing for, and I am not an Apple guy, written from my Apple phone. Apple kind of annoys me, but their stuff is good. Their shows are really good. I've recapped a bunch of them. Servant's coming out in a couple weeks. So, but Cherry is their foray into movies, and this is the first movie that's I'm drawing a blank on their name. I'll look it up right now. This is the first movie that the Russo brothers did that wasn't a Marvel, like an Endgame. So they did Endgame, they finished that up, and then they started doing Cherry. And this is also starring Tom Holland. This is Tom Holland like I've never seen Tom Holland. You're used to seeing him as Spider-Man, happy-go-lucky kid. And even in a movie like the Z movie, what was that? Tom Holland. I am sorry for this. I forget what it was called. It was all right. Hit thumbs down for this. The Lost City of Z. It was okay. But even in that, like you're used to seeing him in a certain way, the happy kid. In Cherry, he's not at all. In Cherry, this is a gritty story about a guy who ends up going to over and joining the army and becoming a PTSD and coming back and starting a drug addiction. And I'm putting it on the list because, first of all, it was a powerful movie. It was also creative in the sense of it's the first movie I remember, and I'm sure there are many more that I just haven't seen or can't remember doing it, but it's really through the lens of the character. And what I mean is, like, he's interviewing for a job, and or he goes to sign up for the army, and it's like Sergeant Dumbass, and there's a bank, and it's No Name Bank, and it's like, well, then there is a name of the bank. But you realize that through his lens, that's how he sees the sergeant. Through his lens, that's how he sees the bank. And what I found interesting about this movie that the Russo brothers did was nobody had a name except for the people involved in the character's life, involved in Tom Holland's life. Nobody got a name that he didn't care about. I thought that was a really unique thing about this movie. It's gritty, though. And if you don't like movies about drug addiction, you're not going to like this one. Painful, tough to watch at times, but really, really good. And I thought it was a really good departure for Tom Holland. It was just a role I've never seen him in. So Cherry absolutely gets my vote. And then finally, we're at number two. Number two, so to recap real quick, top five. Nobody is number 5. House of Gucci, number 4. Cherry is number 3. Number 2 is Promising Young Woman. Promising Young Woman was actually the first movie I saw in 2021. You can find this movie on HBO. And what was interesting about Promising Young Woman, it's a movie about a girl who her friend was date raped. So she's made it her mission to go out and lure guys in and make their life a living hell by playing the drunk girl at the bar, and then they get home. And there's actually a lot of people that you'll recognize in this movie. They're playing big cameos of just guys that take her home. One of them's Adam Brody, for example, right? But this movie was really unique, and it was a role that I've never seen Carey Mulligan play a character like this. She played it perfectly. Another interesting thing was it was the director. It was a writer director. It was her first movie. Her name is Emerald Fennell, and it was just very uniquely done. The ending was beautiful. It was so well done. Now, I did have a buddy of mine, just, white male, who, and I say that because most of the people that she targeted in the movie were white males, and he was uncomfortable with it. And I was like, dude, you're not the one who's going out. Maybe he was. He's not a friend who I knew much about, but the guy that I know, at least, he's not the one who's going out to bars, luring women in and picking up the drunk chick. But it was just an interesting look into, I think, how some guys out there will talk themselves into, oh, I'm not that guy. Oh, I'm taking her home. I'm going to make sure I'm going to be the good guy. I'm going to make sure that she's taken care of and she's safe, but she's clearly shit-faced. It was so good. Promising Young Woman, definitely check it out. Unique, well acted, Amazing ending. So absolutely check out Promising Young Woman. Elsewhere said he wasn't crazy about it. Yeah, look, this movie is definitely not for anyone, for everyone, but it was unique. Maddie said, I heard they left out of the Gucci movie, but I would still love to see it. Yeah, look, Gucci, the family Gucci is pissed off about House of Gucci. And House of Gucci was my number 4 movie if you're just joining. Um, the Gucci family was pissed off, and I understand why. It's not the most flattering movie for the family. So yeah, and I'm sure they did leave some stuff out. I mean, it's a 2-hour and 45-minute movie, and it spans 30, 40 years. Like, they're going to leave some stuff out in 30 to 40 years. But I loved it. I'm good with what I saw, and going with that as the truth. Okay, and now we get to the number 1 movie of the year, Spider-Man: No Way Home. Take a bow. Marvel, you did it. Look, I love Marvel movies, and this is not a me coming on and being a Marvel fanboy, and obviously because Marvel came out with Shang-Chi this year, they came out with Eternals. Neither of those movies they didn't make my top 5. They didn't even make my honorable mention. Spider-Man: No Way Home hits every single emotional chord that you look for when you go to a movie. It is fun. It is sad. It is funny. It is stressful. It is everything you want in a 2-hour and 30-minute, however long it was. And it moved. It was amazing. And I absolutely loved it. And Marvel has taken, I think, some hiccups every once in a while. It happens. Okay, no one's perfect. They put it in plenty of movies. But in this one, they absolutely nailed it. Including, and I don't think that this is easy to do, including bringing them all back and making that storyline work. And what I loved about this movie was Spider-Man: No Way Home understood what it was. Like, it got the joke. It was in on it. There's one scene, if you haven't seen it, there's one scene between Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. Hopefully I'm not ruining the fact that they're in it. Hit thumbs down if I am. But there's one scene where they're going back and forth about how amazing Andrew Garfield is. And it's like, it's an inside joke that everybody in the theater probably gets, but it's just the fact that they wrote it, the fact they put it in there. I loved it. And even the ending got me emotional. I don't want to give it away, but the ending, like, I was torn with the character and what was happening, and absolutely loved Spider-Man: No Way Home. I have plans to go see it again. I can't say enough good things about it. I walked out, and this isn't a situation, by the way, where I was buying into hype. Like, I was lucky enough to see it 3 days early. So when I saw it, there was no hype. Like, I saw a buddy of mine on Facebook was complaining about, saying it was so overrated. And I think that is a problem in today's day and age, where if you haven't seen a movie, and especially Marvel, right, and it comes out and everybody loves it, you go into that movie a week later and you're expecting the greatest movie of all time, and when it doesn't live up to that high expectation that literally the world has set, you come out of it and you're like, that was overrated, that wasn't even as good as this. Luckily, I'm lucky in the sense of, like, I saw it blank slate, had no idea, reviews weren't in, and I walked out of that going, holy shit, that movie was amazing. So I cannot suggest Spider-Man: No Way Home more. Just to recap, top 5, and by the way, that's in theaters. Top 5 of the year for me, 2021. You can find the list in the description of this video. Nobody, which you can't stream anywhere. Eventually, I'm sure you will be able to, but it's definitely worth renting, with Bob Odenkirk. Nobody makes number 5. I really should put it like that. House of Gucci is number 4. That is currently in theaters. It will be back in theaters because it will absolutely be nominated for an Oscar, whether it be Best Picture. It's definitely going to be nominated for Best Adaptation from a original screen. No, adapted from a novel, whatever it is. It'll be nominated, is my point. So it'll be coming back in theaters. Number 3, Cherry on Apple TV Plus. Number 2, Promising Young Woman on HBO Max. And number 1, Spider-Man: No Way Home. It was so good. Let me look at some of these comments here that I wasn't trying to ignore people. I was just, trying to get to the list here. let's see. Elsewhere, I got to that today. I wasn't crazy about Promising Young Woman, but Maddie said she loved it. I do think that this is the Promising Young Woman is going to be a movie that I think a lot of women out there watch it and go like, yes, like because I don't understand. I don't know what they go through when they go to bars. No one's trying to roofie me. Like surprisingly enough, right? Like I go out to the bar, okay? No one's trying to slip anything into my propel, but women have to worry about that, sadly, in our society, and they have to cover their drinks. It's sad, but it's something that when I'm at a bar, I personally really don't think about. Women do. I'm not saying guys don't get roofied, but no one's looking at me and going like, yeah, I want to take that. Yeah, I want to take the YouTube guy home. Like no one. So I think a lot of women who constantly have to think about that when they go out with their friends, they're going to watch Promising Young Woman and they're going to be like, absolutely, yes. Thank God that was made. But I loved it. You know, I absolutely loved it. And I think it will resonate with a female audience a little more than the male audience. And as I said, it made my one friend extremely uncomfortable. But so it's not for everybody. But I do think that it will resonate with women more. I'm a big Marvel fan, and I love No Way Home. Yeah, it's I think No Way Home, and I said this when I walked out of No Way Home, because when I walk out, there's always people from the marketing company who want the critics. I use that term very loosely because I don't really think of myself as a critic, but they want our instant reaction so they could give to the movie studio. And I told the woman who was taking the reactions, look, this might be reactionary, but that's the best Marvel movie I've seen. Endgame. Weeks later, I still think it's the best Marvel movie I've seen since Endgame. I had so much fun watching Thor Ragnarok. Endgame, I thought, though, hit the same emotional chords as like it's funny, it's sad, it's emotional, it's long, but it moves, it's the actions there. Like the only negative thing I can think is to say about Endgame was like the haircut. But other than that, it was perfect. Spider-Man No Way Home, I think, is definitely up there. I'll watch it for Zendaya. Yes, look, Zendaya is gorgeous. And one movie she's in that I didn't have my honorable mention, and I need to go back and rewatch it, was Dune. So this was definitely a popular year for Zendaya. And then it was also, I don't know about you guys out there. I'd like to take your reaction from this. Maybe I'll put a poll up. Create a poll. Are we getting too much? And I'm gonna butcher the spelling of his name. Timothy Chalamet. Okay. The reason I asked this is because I went to go see Don't Look Up, the movie you can find on Netflix now. And it's not going to be my worst movie of the year. I'll tell you that right now. We're going to do the worst movie of the year next week. We'll do a live stream for that. But it wasn't my best. I kind of was disappointed in it. I like Adam McKay a lot. I'm a Philly guy. He's from Philly. But I just kind of thought like, all right, it's Die Hard. It's a comedic Die Hard. It had some laughs for sure. But I was like, okay, it's mediocre. It's got way too many stars. Leo was okay, but he wasn't amazing in it. Jennifer Lawrence was actually, I think, pretty good. But I think they bogged the movie down with stars. And when the movie started, it pops up, starring Timothy Chalamet. And I was like, oh, okay. And that dude's literally in everything now. But all right. And it's like 2 hours of the movie. I'm like, where is Timothy Chalamet? And then he shows up. And if you've seen the movie, you are aware of what I'm talking about. I could have played his role. Like it was just, I actually got annoyed watching it because I'm like, there's no point of him playing this role. They didn't have to get Timothy Chalamet to play this role. They're just getting yet another star. And Timothy Chalamet is now in everything. So it's like, well, if we're having a movie and we're having stars, we have to have Timothy Chalamet. I'm getting a little Timothy Chalamet out. I really am. Timothy, I'm getting to the point where it's like I need a long sustained break. I had this with Jennifer Lawrence back in the late, I guess, 2010s, the early 2010s, where it was every movie that came out was Jennifer Lawrence was featured in it. I'm getting to the point with Timothy Chalamet where every damn movie is Timothy Chalamet. He had Dune, Don't Look Up, The French Dispatch. Like it was a lot of Timothy Chalamet, and I felt like it was even more than that. I felt like every story that was coming out from Variety was about Timothy Chalamet. Timothy Chalamet out. And by the way, this is not to say he can't act. Like he's an incredible actor. one of my favorite scenes of 2 years ago. He's in a Netflix movie called The King, and he has this speech in this movie that every once in a while I'll go back and watch. It's the Make It England speech. If you don't want to watch the movie, just go on YouTube and type in Timothy Chalamet, The King, Make It England speech. It is so good. This speech gets me fired up. He's a great actor. But I just thought in Don't Look Up, it was way too much. It was like, dude, well, you're just having Timothy Chalamet because he's Timothy Chalamet. Like, anyone could have played this role. You could have gotten an extra to play this role. It was too much. So right now it's the poll result is 50-50. Okay. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk on Timothy Chalamet. Hit thumbs down if you're the biggest Timothy fan. Vince said he did love the ending to Promising Young Woman. Elsewhere, I also watched Andrew Garfield in the Eyes of Timothy. I want to see that. I know that is on, I think, Hulu or Amazon. It just got released like this past week. It looks good. Jessica Chastain is my favorite actress. I try to see everything she's in. She's been in some movies that I absolutely hate, but I for the most part, she's like my Andrew Garfield in the sense of like I pretty much love everything she's in. So I definitely want to see the Eyes of Tammy Faye. I will hopefully watch that this week. I've gotten 2 movies down in 2022, so I'm working on my list. Interesting. I like the movie for nostalgia, but how the multiverse came about, I thought it was a little silly. Vince, I'm not going to argue with you, man, because you donated money to me, but I respect your opinion. I do. I thought it was interesting, and I thought that the multiverse opened it up into having more Andrew Garfield movies. I'll tell you the one negative I can say about No Way Home is the fact that I thought the end credit scenes sucked. Don't give me a trailer. And I feel like Marvel's going to continue to do this, where they're going to rope you into a mid-credit scene, and the end credit scene is going to be the trailer for the next movie. I don't need a freaking trailer. Like, I'll get a trailer when I in 2 weeks when you release it, 3 weeks or whatever. I don't need a trailer at the end of the movie. Give me like an end credit scene. Give me Toby and Andrew getting back to their universe. Give me that. Let's go. The number 1 show has to be Snowpiercer, and I can't wait for the 24th. Season 3 comes out. Yeah, Ethan, I will hopefully get Snowpiercer early, so I will have the recap. If I get it early, the recap for episode 1 will be up like immediately. And by immediately, I always wait until if Snowpiercer comes out at 10 o'clock, I'll wait till 11 o'clock to release it. I'm not trying to ruin it for people, but I'm a big fan of Snowpiercer too. Was hesitant to dive into it because of the fact that it was on TNT, but I love the movie, and I think the show is actually a little bit better. If you're not a fan of Snowpiercer, get on board, get on the train, hop on. I did, as I said a little bit earlier, I released my season 1 and 2 recap of Snowpiercer. If you have not seen the show at all, you can literally get caught up on the entire series up until this point in that recap. If you just need a season 2 recap, I have that as well. Servant is another show that comes out this month. I have a recap for that. I just released the season 1 and 2 recap for that as well. And then Ozark comes back. I watched, I can't say that. Scratch that. But it comes back, and I will be recapping season 4, part 1. I have a season 3 recap. That's my plugs. Hit thumbs down if you don't like plugs. Let's continue this. I loved Don't Look Up, but I didn't know who Timothy Chalamet was. Yeah, he's like an Oscar. He's best to be an Oscar. He's a really good actor. He's in a movie, really powerful movie called Beautiful Boy, which is about a true story about a drug addiction. So if you like Cherry, you might like that as well. But you look really good actor. I'm just kind of over him at this point. Another good show, by the way, that I'm not doing shows, but if anybody watches Dave out there on FXX, I'm not just saying this because I'm a Philly guy. It's really good. And season 1, I thought, was the best pleasant surprise maybe of the pandemic that wasn't named Ted Lasso. But season 2, I thought started off extremely slow. Like they had no idea what they were really looking at. The ending of season 2 is the most beautiful ending of any show in 2021. It was great. So, yeah. Okay. Why people not considering Zack Snyder's Justice League is top? I mean, MJ, I didn't put it in there. I said this a little earlier because somebody did. If I could find the comment, somebody did mention earlier that they had it in there as their number 1 movie of the year, and I don't have it in my I'm trying to find it. Yeah, Kung Fu Scuba Babe, if he's still on here. He had it as his number 1. Look, this is my personal opinion on this. I don't have it on there because I thought it was great compared to what we saw from the original. I think if the original never comes out, we watch Justice League and we go, wow, it's a really good superhero movie, and we move on. Because the first one was an absolute dumpster fire piece of crap, that it was like hard to not be better than it. It was long for me. It was almost like 4 hours. And I thought it would have ranked as like a very good, mid-level to very good Marvel movie, but it's probably the best DC movie out there. But that's not really saying much. So for me, and by the way, and I'm a person who walked into it looking to dislike it. I went on a rant earlier about Zack Snyder claiming he had a Snyder cut and then wanting to do reshoots. So for me, I didn't include it in my my honorable mention. I didn't include it in my top 5, but it doesn't mean I didn't like it. I was pleasantly surprised by it, but it's not going to be on anybody's top 5 list because of the fact that a lot of the critics are snobby, upper crusty, and they don't give any credence to the superhero movies. They just don't. Like Spider-Man No Way Home is a prime example. Spider-Man No Way Home, and I'll look it up right now, okay? They're going to make a push for Spider-Man No Way Home to get Best Picture, and they should. The same should have happened to Endgame. Absolutely. Like, it was universally beloved. This is a movie that has a 94% critic score. It has a 98% audience score. Now, personally, I looked at those numbers and I go, that's universally loved, right? There's 6% of critics out there who have a stick up their ass and don't like fun. Whatever. They probably went into it, and I've actually seen this before at screenings. They probably went into it looking to hate it. And I've admitted before, I just admitted about Zack Snyder. Like, I went into it looking to hate it. But they didn't go into it with an open mind. I don't know. Maybe they just really did dislike it. Whatever. But that movie is universally beloved. That's not going to be nominated for an Oscar. And if it is, it has zero chance of winning the Oscar for Best Picture. And it's probably the most popular movie that critics and the audience agree on. And it's not going to be nominated. And it's not going to win. But the movie that, there'll be plenty of movies out there that have a 90% critic score and the audience score is 60%. And it's like, it's the critics' opportunity. The Oscars are the critics' opportunity to tell the audience how they don't get it and how smart the critics are, and the Academy. Like, kiss my ass. Like, this is the whole reason why I started keeping track of movies I watch, is because I cannot stand the Academy. The Academy will never give credence to superhero movies, no matter how good they are. More of them side with Martin Scorsese, thinking that they're not real movies. Martin Scorsese, with all due respect, you made the movie Silence. That movie sucked. He's also made really good movies. You can disagree with me. I like your opinion. I appreciate that, Vince. I like the fact that we can have like a normal conversation on the internet, and it's not back and forth with like, you suck. It's nice. Timmy Faye is on HBO Max. Yeah, I knew it was a streaming service. I couldn't remember what it was. I have not seen Coda. Coda. What is Coda? Oh, I gotta look that up. What is Coda? Let's see what Coda is, because it does sound familiar. Yeah, this is the Apple TV. I haven't seen it. I will check it out though. 'Cause I got nothing else to do. So that will wrap it up. If anyone else has any other questions, I'll wait a couple of minutes. But thank you so much for coming, for the people that donated. I really, really appreciate it. You have no idea what it means, but it really, just the people that came and watched. If you just joined, top 5 were Nobody, number 5, House of Gucci, number 4, Cherry, number 3, Promising Young Woman, number 2, Spider-Man No Way Home was my number 1 movie of 2021 that I personally saw. I will be doing another live chat next week. I will be doing the top 5 worst movies and Vince, fire away your question. I will be doing the top 5 worst movies next week. The month of July is your month of July. Jesus, hit thumbs down for that, because it's the month of January. The month of January is going to be a little live chat heavy, because we're going to do the 2 for best and worst. And then I'm also going to do a live chat for Cobra Kai season 4. I'm going to give everyone a little bit of a chance to kind of watch it if you haven't, at your own pace. But the 3rd week of January, the week that Servant and Snowpiercer drops, that week I'm going to do a live chat for Cobra Kai to just get everyone's thoughts on that. And I'll save my thoughts for that as well. And then in terms of what we got coming up with the channel, I said a little bit earlier, we got Snowpiercer. That season starts. I'll have the recap up, hopefully, at the very least, episode 1. Servant, that season starts on Apple Plus. I'll have that episode 1 up as well. And then Ozark, season 4, part 1 starts. And I will hopefully have the entire part 1 up the day that it drops. And I think that also drops the 21st. So it's not like, if you don't see recaps popping up at the normal pace, it's not like I'm not working on them. I just can't release them because the show hasn't been released yet. A lot of times when I get this stuff early, I try to get it done. Like Cobra Kai, prime example, I had that thing done by Christmas. I just had to wait for it to actually be released to the public so I could release it. So don't just think I'm sitting back drinking Mai Tais. I'm not. I'm drinking water, though. I'll be working on some stuff. The one show that I'm torn between whether I recap it or not, and the only reason that I'm torn with maybe not doing it is because it's no guarantee there's a season 2. I don't like doing shows where there's not a season 2. I feel like it's a waste of my time. No one's looking for a recap of a show that isn't getting a season 2, but it's a really good show. It's Station 11 on HBO. It's based off a book. It's really, really good, really well done. I love the pacing. If you haven't got a chance to watch that, there's 7 episodes in. There's a 10-episode season right now. Check that out if you get a chance to. Absolutely love Station 11. But yeah, so that's what we got coming up on the channel. I have one question. What are the movies that you're most excited to see this year? Let me look. There's a lot that I'm going to forget. I will say, I'm excited for more Morbius. I like Jared Leto. I think at times he's a little, but I do think he will win the Oscar. I think he should win the Oscar for House of Gucci. I think he's tremendous. When he shows up at UFC fights, I'm like, oh god, it's kind of cringe. But I am looking forward to that. Let's see what's coming soon. I just go to my Flickster app and look. Scream have no interest in whatsoever. And throw some movies out that you're excited about because I'll base it off that too. I am excited a little bit for Death on the Nile, which has been pushed back, and I feel like it's going to be pushed back again. But that is coming out in February. Let's see what else we have. I'll watch Jackass Forever, but I'm not really pumped for it. Yeah, Top Gun, I'll watch it for sure. Am I excited for it? No, because I wasn't from the generation of Top Gun. I watched Top Gun late. I liked it, but I'm not jonesing for Top Gun. All the Marvel stuff I'm looking forward to for sure. I'm a Marvel guy. Let's see what else they have coming out. Uncharted. I'm looking forward to Uncharted for sure. Video game movies are tough to do. They're very, very tough to do. So it'll be interesting to see the on-screen chemistry between Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. It'll also be nice to see Mark Wahlberg not play the everyday guy who's just working a job and all of a sudden something catastrophic happens. Nice departure for him. What else do we have? The Batman. I've said it 15 times now. I'm not a DC guy, but I really like Robert Pattinson. I think he's a good actor. He gets a bad rap because he was in the Twilight movies. They were awful. I think he's good, and I think he's going to kill it as Batman. And I'm not even a Batman fan. I'm really not, but I'm interested. I want to see him in it. Let's see what else. Lost City, I'm interested in. It just looks interesting. I like Sandra Bullock a lot. So The Unforgivable was an interesting departure that I've never seen her in that kind of role like that. That's all I get to is up until April 8th. So there's more for sure that I'm just forgetting. That if you mention them, I go, oh yeah, I want to see that. I want to see that. But that's it for now that I can think of. That's on my app. So once again, though, thank you so much for watching all this, for the people that donated, for supporting the channel, for subscribing, for being interested in anything that I have to say. It is humbling, and I really appreciate it. Hopefully, this is just the start of big things for 2022. Hopefully, everybody's out there is staying safe. Keep staying safe, all that good stuff. Hopefully, everybody in your families, your loved ones, everyone's okay. Difficult times right now with the virus is spiking and all that stuff. So hopefully this was a little bit of a distraction for you guys listening to me babble on about movies and whatnot. Yes, new Jessica Chastain movie on Netflix. What is that called? The 81 or something? I am looking forward to that. Next week, I haven't decided. I can probably tell you right now. Wait, but Ethan, don't go. I'll tell you right now what the date is. If I would like to make it next Wednesday, but I can tell you now that if the Flyers play on Wednesday, I won't be able to make it. No, they don't. So next Wednesday, I'll be doing the same thing. Same thing, 9 o'clock. Hopefully by that point, we have fixed the issues that I have of doing a live stream, but same time, Wednesday, 9 o'clock. Top 5 worst. I actually, in a weird way, enjoy doing the worst list more than I enjoy doing the best. The worst is my opportunity to just rail away, because I've always used the phrase of like, I suffer so you don't have to. When I go to some of these movies, I get asked a lot of times by coworkers and friends, like, dude, why would you watch that? Because I'll suffer so you don't have to. I'll save you the time. But this is my one opportunity to really rant away about a movie that I sat there and suffered through for 2 hours and it sucked. And there were some really, really bad ones. So hopefully you guys can tune in next week to check that out next Wednesday at 9 o'clock. Once again, though, thank you so much, and hopefully we'll talk to you next week.